Hey, welcome back to setting up a REST API using a MEN stack. In the previous video, we restructured our application for our routes over here and controllers to make it more like an MVC pattern. We won't be creating any views in this tutorial series since we're building a REST API, but in this video, we'll take a look at the models. Before we get started, if you're new to the channel, I post up tutorials, tips, and tricks for web development, especially for developers that are just getting started. So if that's the sort of content you're interested in, please do subscribe to the channel. Now we'll start off setting up our data layer with MongoDB. And we can do that by going to www.mongodb.com. And if we go here, start free, you can sign up and register. You can use your Google account if you want, or you can just sign up with just like a regular sign up with your own email. So I have it already set up. So I'm here. I just clicked and created it using my Google account. So this is kind of where you start off with. Okay, I can skip here, but if you're already set up here on this screen, you might as well do it. So I'm just going to do web dev or code with web dev, and I'll call this men-API. It's JavaScript, and over here we'll do the free share cluster. Click on that. We'll do AWS over here, and I guess you can pick whatever. If you're in Asia, Europe, Australia, create the cluster. That is creating. Now, if you already had an account set up, I don't think you can create a second cluster for free on project. So you'd have to go over here, click new, and you would go through that same process. Interface is a little bit different. You just go and create a new project, hit next, and fill out the same kind of information. As that's creating, now what we need to do here is once we're logged in, hit connect. Okay, it's still being created. So I'll let that sit for a little bit. It may take up to 1 to 2 minutes over here. Now, while that's being created, let's install some packages here. So we need to do npm-d, install, -D, and we'll do Mongoose, Mongoose, and .env. Mongoose we'll be using to connect our database that we just created for the cluster, and .env will house most of our credentials. Let's go into app over here. Let's add our .env package, and this is for our credentials. And we'll do require .env. We'll call config. That will run it for us. Now we need Mongoose. We can set up our connection here. Let's check to see if it's set up. Okay, so we have it set up here. We just need connection. Add your current IP or allow access to anywhere. Add that. And we need a DB user. I'm going to use men user, and I'll do men4. So you can do whatever you want here. I'm going to create that. Choose a connection method. We're going to do connect through applications. Depending on which version of Node, I'm going to use this one, 3.6. Just copy that. Close that. So I'm just going to paste this here for now. We have our connection here. We have our user, so men user. And we have men1234. That's my password for now, just so I have it there. Let's set up our connection. Mongoose. Connect. We'll need this. And we need some options in here. So I'm going to do DB name. This can be whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to call it men API. We need user. Will be this. Pass. Men 1, 2, 3, 4. We need a couple other things. We'll need this user. Use new URL. So this gets. What don't they like about this? That. So there we go. We need this. There's a couple other properties that I want to pass, or options. So this one, It's like a deprecated thing. Use create index, some other stuff here. This normally, I wanted to separate this out as different variables. But you can just paste this full thing in. You don't need to change your password or the database name. This gets overwritten or set up over here. Let's go and so it's going to return a promise for us. So we can do then. We can do an error function in here. Connection established or connected. Let's check that out. And I'm going to do npm run start. Hopefully that will connect us. And we're connected to our database. You can't just push this up into your Git or whatever repository because it's going to have all your information. So what we need to do is we'll create a new file called .env. I'll create another file, sample. Okay, so this, I'll put this in sample and this will be our real one. So this is my URI right here. And I have my username. Paste that here. And I change that. Let me save that. And since we included this .env, now we can access variables that are in here. To do that, this will be process.env.uri. What did I name them? Name, user, pass. This one is name. This one is user, pass. Okay, let me save that. I'm going to cancel this and rerun it. And we're still connected to our database. Now, if I say I did this, we'll see that there's an error. Okay, so there is an error here. So we need to pass that user new URL pass parser equals true here. So that's why I pasted that in, because you get these errors. And that's now connected again. Also want to catch an error, so we can do .catch error function. Net console. Well, let's see here. If I did something like this, it should get an error. Authentication failed. So that's my error over here that it caught. Now if I change that back, okay, now it's connected. We were able to catch that. Also, I want to create a couple of other. So const db equals mongoose dot connection, and here will be db on error, and we'll do console error heard from the database. So any kind of error that while we're connected, they'll let us know. And this will give us connection is set. Test base. Here we can see successfully access the database and connected to MongoDB when we connected here. Now we're able to access our database. Now I don't want to have the database connected within our app.js. So I'm going to remove this and put it into its own file. Create this as config file here, b.js. And in here, let's grab this, comment that out, paste it into here. Okay, I'm going to move this up here, all that, and do module exports. Now we can add this to our app.js. We require config /d. So if I save that, we are now getting that over here. So we have our database file over here, and we have our .env file here that manages our credentials here. So you would have to copy and paste yours based off of what you have on your connection. within here. So you copy and paste that, and what you set up for your username and password. Go to, should be within, I think database access. Yeah, over here. Whatever you would have created for your user here. So you can do add a new database user if you want to manage it for somebody else or create a user for somebody else. That's how you would connect. Not your account username. It would have to be your database username. So you got to make that clear here. That is created. Again, database name doesn't matter as it will create it on the fly when you create it. If I go back to cluster, I go to connection. I don't have a database yet, but in the next video, when we create some files or create a document for our database, you'll see that. The last thing I want to cover is creating our model. Let's do model. And in here, we're going to do new file, and we'll do users.js. We'll need to include Mongoose. We'll do const user schema. And this will set up our collection, mongoose.schema. We're going to set up some fields. We'll start off with name. And what we'll do is type will equal to string. We'll make this unique, true, and required. We have one field right now, type string. We set it to unique, and it's required. Let's create another field. We'll do title. Won't make this unique. Make another. And another. So we'll do bio. We'll also make it a string, and let's do date. Will be date, and it won't make this default or required, but we'll do a default. This can be 8.now. We save that. We created this schema, and finally we need to do module dot exports equals mongoose dot model. We'll name this user. So this will be the collection within our database, and we'll use schema. And within our controller over here, we'll need to import that over here. Const user equal to require. And here we'll need to go back one folder, models. Our controller has access to our model, so we can access it by using. I think that's it for this, for setting up our Mongo data layer. Now, just a recap, we created a database on MongoDB Atlas. So this is in the cloud. Created that. You can get our connection over here through overview. Connection. You can grab that from doing this and your username from over here. You set up. We created a connection using this db.js. We installed Mongoose over here, and we set up a connection for these handlers for errors and for open. We're using our .env file to give access or the credentials required to make the connection. And once we made that connection, it tells us that it's running successfully or connected to the DB over here. Now that we have that, we ended up creating a user model with this schema that has these 4 fields: name, title, bio, date. And we created a schema for over here. We added this model to our user control, which is being accessed through our API user route over here. When it accesses this endpoint over here at the users and users/list, it will use these functions over here. That's a recap of what we did, and in the next video we'll take a look at using CRUD, create, read, update, and delete functions for our REST API. And I'll talk to you guys hopefully in the next video. Hey, if you've gotten this far, thanks for the support. This will help the channel grow. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to click the thumbs up button and leave a comment down below. To stay updated with the latest content from the channel, you can subscribe by clicking right here in the middle.